What's up, everybody? What's up, MGTOW? So in this video, I just want to quickly recap my theory of omnigamy and how that works as a kind of dual sexual strategy for humans in general. And the reason why I'm trying to recap this topic is because I think it's kind of at least tangentially important to the topic of male competition. And specifically, going forward, I'm going to be talking about these topics of male competition masquerading as female selection and focusing on a lot of feminist topics, which actually, some of which, not all, but some of which are actually male competition pretending to be female selection. So saying all that, just to kind of go over the concept of omnigamy, is the fact that there's basically two strategies that humans use basically to structure their reproductive process. One is monogamy, which technically, or you could look at it as a kind of a isolationist or peacetime strategy, where if there's either limited resources or not limited resources, but a stable amount of resources, and there's not a lot of outside threats, then the society can stabilize and kind of distribute the sexual resources more evenly across the society. But the problem with that is that it doesn't really give much of a benefit in the sense of, advancing society, because when society's stabilized like that, there's not a lot of volatility. So there's no way to really work the gains because it's just kind of flat line going across the same, and everyone's the same and staying the same, and it's a homogenous type of society. And then on the other side, you have the polygyny side, where it's more of an expansionist wartime type of strategy, because you can really only do polygyny if you have an ever-expanding pool of sexual resources, or if you need to do it because a lot of the men in your society have already been killed due to a war and you need to repopulate. So again, the problem with polygyny arises when you have a polygynous society, but you don't either have a way for the excess males that can't find wives to either expand out to find new sexual resources or kill them. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a rebellion, because once you have a large enough group of unmarried men in your society that it exceeds the amount of married men, then you're going to get a rebellion. So, we can kind of see this in nature with the concept of the bonobos versus the chimpanzees, where you could say that the bonobos are more isolationist and the chimpanzees are more expansionist. And so you can see that there are parallels there with that. Now, the problem I think that we're seeing in modern capitalist westernized societies is that free market capitalism is trying to return to a kind of law of the jungle style of basically organizing society, where it's just those with the most power get the most, and those with little power get very little. And so it's more of a wartime expansionist philosophy. Basically, the capitalist free market society, like, there's always more markets to find, there's always more resources to plunder, and the strong will get all the resources and the weak will get none. But since we kind of stopped killing people, and now we just kind of starve them to death and do all types of other stuff through social Darwinism, which isn't real Darwinism, it's made up, we have run the risk of having revolutions. And we can see that now with all these groups forming, whether it be Antifa or the Proud Boys, or name any other group, Q, just other random groups that have been forming, and they're basically all forming of young men, for the most part unmarried. In the Proud Boys, they're more patriots, so some of those guys are married. I won't say that they're not all married, but especially with Antifa, you can see that a lot of these guys are young guys that are not married. And I think personally, this is just my view, that this was planned. and that they knew that by studying history that typically if you can't expand, then if you start practicing polygyny, you're going to get a rebellion. And so that's why they organized the controlled opposition. And you can say, oh, controlled opposition doesn't exist. It's a conspiracy theory. But now we can see with Enrique Tarrio of the Proud Boys, he was an FBI informant. He was controlling the Proud Boys. That is the definition of controlled opposition. So the government already knows that this stuff's going to happen. And so they try to basically create the movements in order to squash a real rebellion. And now I'm not saying that we should have a rebellion, but I think we need to compare and contrast, the benefits and negatives of monogamy and a polygynous society, and maybe try to find some balance. Because you hear a lot of people in MGTOW even arguing against the concept of marriage, and especially monogamy. And I don't think that people shouldn't be allowed to be separated or whatever, but it does create a polygynous society when you allow a certain small group of highly resourced men to marry over and over and over again and impregnate many women in society, thereby draining the sexual resources from the society from other men. Right? And so, again, I'm not against separation, but what we're calling socially enforced monogamy could be socially enforced. And for example, you can kind of look at how Christianity worked with monogamy, and they basically didn't allow people to get divorced except in extreme circumstances, including very high resourced people. So nobody was allowed to get divorced. And then so you don't have this problem of older men now dating younger women and taking those women away from the lower resourced younger men. And we're trying to mask this polygyny as some type of monogamy. But I'm sorry, if you've been married 3 or 4 times and you have 3 or 4 women, 3 or 4 children by 3 or 4 different women, that's polygyny. I don't care if it's a slow over time polygyny or if you have 4 wives at once all pregnant. It's polygyny. You're draining sexual resources from society. It's greed. And you're part of the problem of causing the uprising and the rebellion of all these angry, basically disenfranchised young men who basically won't have a chance to reproduce now. So basically, when you're looking at this type of stuff, all these different types of soft kill things and the different technocracy type of things that they're using to basically subject everybody to this. That's all you can really say. It's a soft kill type of sterilization of lower class people. And they're using different vectors of attack, which I'm going to get into in a future video. But just trying to kind of understand this concept that this is a polygynous society. So it is a wartime type of sexual strategy that they're using against you. And feminism, for example, since everything now is psychological, we don't use physical attacks as much, especially in westernized countries. But for instance, if you were trying to attack another population, one strategy would be to poison them. And since, again, we're using psychological things, you can say that feminism is a kind of mental poison. Like a lot of people say, liberalism is a disease. Feminism is a mental poison that's been injected into our society in order to stop reproduction. Like, that's what it is. And so who injected it? Did women inject it? Because a lot of MGTOW want to claim that it's all subconscious and that men are just basically biologically determined to be subject to women. And I just don't buy that argument. I think that there are groups of men who are actively using feminism and other ideologies to destabilize and damage society. And maybe I can't give you a laundry list of evidence and all this other stuff, but at least before you start telling me I don't know what I'm talking about in the comments, at least let me finish my series on this, and then maybe you can see more of what I'm talking about before just jumping on me and telling me I'm wrong before you even understand what I'm talking about. So really, this video doesn't have a conclusion. It's just basically a tangential kind of argument that I'm going to be using to talk about how feminism is used against men by other men in order to damage the reproductive prospects and potential of other men as a sexual strategy. So I'm basically claiming that feminism is a sexual strategy used by other men as a way to attack and damage their reproductive access or their reproductive resources. So you can see that, we have to kind of strike a balance between monogamy and polygyny, because of course we want society to advance, but at the same time we don't want it to advance so fast that it's completely destabilized or something like that. I don't know, maybe if you believe in social Darwinism and you believe that everybody should die except for like one person, and that person's like the be-all, end-all of human civilization, and then they're the top person, we should just kill everybody that's below them and just give them all the women and restart society. I mean, I guess we could do that too. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you believe in Darwinism like that, then it's like unless you are literally the richest, most powerful person in the world, we should kill you too. We should kill all of us. Let's just do it that way, right? We'll just leave Bill Gates and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and let them repopulate the whole earth, right? Because like, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? Oh, if you're on welfare, we should kill you. Oh, if you didn't graduate college, we should kill you. If you don't have a master's degree, we should kill you. If you don't have a PhD, we should kill you. If you haven't invented something, we should kill. Like, where's the line? Where's the line? Really? So that's my line. Unless you're the top 3 richest people in the world, we should kill you. All right? If you want to play the eugenics game. All right? Let's do that. So that's basically just this topic. I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good day and go MGTOW.